the early 1990s, I was working as a dedicated X-ray technician at a sprawling multi-campus hospital. My evening shifts were a mix of excitement and camaraderie with my fellow coworkers, especially my best friend, who also worked with me. However, one day, my peaceful routine took a dark and unsettling turn that would haunt me for weeks. It all began with a mysterious phone call. As I picked up the receiver and greeted the caller with my usual "This is Luke," there was a brief pause before a soft, unfamiliar voice spoke. It was a woman, and she expressed her gratitude for my kindness the other night. Puzzled, I thanked her but couldn't help but wonder who I was talking to. However, before I could inquire further, she cryptically replied, "All in due time," and abruptly hung up. At first, I dismissed it as a prank from my friend or another coworker. Nevertheless, a few days later, the same mysterious caller reached out to me again. This time, she asked if I had been thinking about her. Feeling annoyed by what seemed like a joke, I told her I was too busy for games and ended the call. But the odd occurrences were far from over. Soon after, I noticed a note on my truck's windshield while leaving work. The message was chilling, warning me that I had made a huge mistake by disrespecting her, and that I would regret it. The note gave me an uneasy feeling, and I decided to ignore it, hoping that the prankster would come forward and reveal their identity. However, the situation took a more sinister turn when the mysterious woman started following me. It happened one afternoon at the mall. As I sat in the food court, enjoying a quick meal, I noticed a woman staring at me from afar. The intense gaze sent shivers down my spine, and I quickly finished my food and left. But she was relentless and continued trailing me. Feeling alarmed, I tried to lose her in the crowd, making random turns and visiting different stores. Eventually, I managed to shake her off and returned home, hoping that this ordeal was finally over. Yet, the following night, around 2 a.m., my phone rang again, jolting me awake from a peaceful slumber. Reluctantly answering the call, I heard the same eerie voice on the other end. She insisted that I would get one more chance, and then she hung up once more. I couldn't shake the feeling of unease as I lay in bed, unable to sleep, thinking about the mysterious woman who seemed to know too much about me. The next day, I confided in my best friend about the whole ordeal, hoping he would laugh it off and admit to the prank. But to my surprise, he denied any involvement and appeared genuinely concerned for my safety. A couple of days later, as I returned home after running some errands, I noticed a shadowy figure lurking near my truck. My heart raced as I realized it was the same woman who had been following me. Fear and adrenaline surged through me, and without hesitation, I called 911. Thankfully, a deputy sheriff arrived promptly and detained the woman. She appeared to be under the influence of drugs and was carrying a disturbing note expressing her feelings of disrespect and vengeance towards me. Shockingly, she also had a fixed-blade knife in her possession, although her intentions with it remained unclear. The law enforcement professionals reassured me and suggested that I obtain a restraining order for my safety. I complied, and from that day on, I lived in fear but with a newfound sense of caution. I never encountered her again, and I never discovered her true identity or what her intentions were. However, the experience left an indelible mark on me, reminding me of the unpredictability and darkness that can lurk just beneath the surface of everyday life. During the time I worked at a hospital in my hometown, I had the evening shift from 2:30 p.m. until 11 p.m. one night. After work, I decided to unwind with a few friends at a popular bar nearby. We enjoyed a few beers and had a good time together. As the night wore on, I realized it was getting late and I needed to head home. The bar was on a one-way street, so I had to take a few turns to get onto another one-way road leading to the freeway. While waiting at a red light, I noticed a disheveled woman approaching my truck. She seemed to be in a distressed state and asked if I wanted to party with her. Her appearance and unpleasant odor made the situation uncomfortable. I politely declined her offer, hoping she would leave. Instead, she climbed onto the side of my truck and persisted with her proposition. I locked the door with my elbow, feeling uneasy about her behavior. As I looked into my passenger side mirror, I noticed a young man approaching us, walking quickly, but hunched down. Their intentions were unclear, but I sensed trouble. Feeling increasingly uneasy, I asked the woman to get off my truck, but she didn't comply. To avoid any potential danger, I gently pushed her shoulder, urging her to step down. She held onto my side mirror, making me even more anxious. As soon as the traffic light changed, I swiftly accelerated, and the young man stood up and began running toward us. Thankfully, the woman finally let go, and I made it to the next red light. I took the opportunity to roll up my window, not wanting to engage further with them. Looking back, I saw the two arguing, seemingly upset that I hadn't fallen for their distraction. Fortunately, I managed to reach home without any further incidents. Nevertheless, I decided not to venture into that part of the city again, as the encounter left me feeling unsettled and cautious about such situations in the future. I was an ordinary 29-year-old woman dedicated to my profession as a nurse, striving to make a positive impact in people's lives. Working at the local hospital had its ups and downs, and I had encountered my fair share of unusual patients over the years. However, nothing could have prepared me for the chilling encounter with Edward Dawson. It was just another routine day at the hospital when Edward was wheeled in with a broken leg. From the moment I laid eyes on him, something about him felt off. His penetrating gaze made my skin crawl, and there was an unsettling aura around him that I couldn't shake off. Nevertheless, I put my feelings aside and focused on providing him with the best care possible. As the days went by, Edward's behavior became increasingly bizarre. He would fixate on me, constantly asking personal questions that made me feel uncomfortable. It seemed as if he was studying me, trying to delve into the depths of my soul. Other staff members also noticed his strange behavior and reprimanded him for being inappropriate, but that didn't deter him. Edward's stay at the hospital was prolonged due to complications, and he required additional surgeries for his leg. Each passing day made me more uneasy around him, but I remained professional and continued my duties. Finally, the day came when he was discharged, and I thought I was finally free from his unsettling presence. But I was wrong. A few weeks after his release, I started receiving anonymous messages on my phone. The content of the text was deeply disturbing, filled with intimate details about my personal life that only someone close to me would know. The messages referred to moments in my day, indicating that the sender was watching my every move. Fear and anxiety consumed me as I realized that I had a stalker. One evening, after a long shift at the hospital, I was heading home when I spotted a dark figure across the street from my house. My heart pounded in my chest as I recognized the sinister silhouette. It was Edward. He was just standing there, watching me, and it sent shivers down my spine. I hurried into my house, making sure all the doors and windows were locked, feeling like I was being hunted. The creepy messages continued, and I couldn't escape the feeling of being constantly watched. I confided in my friends about the situation, and they urged me to report it to the police. But before I could take any action, the situation escalated dramatically. One night, I received an alert from my home security system. The live feed showed a horrifying sight: Edward trying to break into my house. Panic took over as I watched him attempting to lift the window, climb onto the roof, and even force open the front door. It was like a living nightmare unfolding before my eyes. I called the police immediately, and they rushed to my house. By the time they arrived, Edward was gone, but they assured me that they would prioritize my safety and do everything possible to catch him. With the help of my friends, I stayed at a secure location while the investigation continued. As the authorities delved into Edward's background, they made a startling discovery. He wasn't a doctor, as he had claimed during his hospital stay. In fact, he had been impersonating one and had access to my medical records. It was a terrifying revelation, knowing that he had gathered personal information about me from my own workplace. Edward was finally apprehended by the police, and the charges against him piled up. His stalking and impersonation had caused immense distress, not just to me but to others he had targeted as well. It was a long and grueling legal process, but the knowledge that he was off the streets brought some sense of relief. Despite the resolution, I couldn't shake off the fear that lingered in the aftermath. The ordeal had left its mark on me, and I struggled to find peace of mind. I continued my work as a nurse, but I couldn't help but be hyper-aware of my surroundings and the potential dangers lurking in the shadows. Months passed, and the nightmares of Edward's sinister presence slowly began to fade. I surrounded myself with the support of friends and family, seeking therapy to help heal the emotional wound. With time, I found the strength to move forward and reclaim my life. While the incident had shattered my belief in the safety of the familiar, it also taught me the importance of vigilance and self-preservation. No longer taking my sense of security for granted, I became more cautious about sharing personal information and remained alert to any signs of suspicious behavior. Though the scars of that haunting experience may never fully fade, I found solace in knowing that I had overcome the darkness and emerged stronger. My passion for nursing remained unwavering, and I channeled my energy into helping others heal, just as I had healed from my own traumatic encounter. The resilience I gained through this ordeal would forever shape my life, reminding me of the strength that lies within each of us to conquer even the most terrifying nightmares. In the 1980s, I found myself working as a nurse at a mental hospital, a place that had its fair share of challenges and extraordinary moments. Among the diverse array of patients, there was one individual named Jacob who left an indelible mark on my memory for reasons I couldn't possibly have foreseen. Jacob was unlike anyone I had ever encountered before, a man whose demeanor made Jack Nicholson's character in The Shining appear mild-mannered in comparison. He seemed to have an unsettling fascination with causing harm, and it wasn't long before the hospital staff recognized the need for extra precautions when dealing with him. One night, during my usual night shift, I made my rounds to check on the patients. The hospital policy was to dim the lights during nighttime hours to promote restful sleep. Armed with my trusty work pen, which had a built-in light button, I ventured into Ward 13. The pen light was the only source of illumination, casting eerie shadows along the hallway. As I approached Jacob's room, I noticed that the door was slightly ajar, which was unusual. Stepping closer, I cautiously peered inside, and what I saw sent a shiver down my spine. The room was in utter disarray, furniture overturned, bed sheets torn, and strange markings on the walls that looked eerily like bloodstains. Unease settled in my gut. Jacob was known for his unpredictable behavior, and this scene was deeply unsettling. The hospital staff had taken extra precautions by restraining him with heavy-duty restraints on his arms and legs, which should have made it nearly impossible for him to move freely. Yet somehow, he had managed to break free. My instincts told me to exercise extreme caution, so I decided to search the entire ward for him. There was a door leading to a downstairs storage area, typically reserved for staff access only. With trepidation, I ventured down, the beam of my penlight guiding the way. In the dimly lit storage area, I spotted a fleeting shadow darting behind some shelves. Adrenaline surged through my veins, and I knew I had to tread carefully. As I navigated the narrow aisles, my eyes locked with Jacob's. He crouched beside an old locker, holding a glimmering scalpel in his hand. His expression was a grotesque mixture of amusement and menace. Fear gripped me, but I stood my ground, unwilling to show weakness. Jacob began to move towards me, the scalpel gleaming malevolently in his grasp. My heart pounded in my chest, preparing for the worst. Suddenly, another nurse rushed in, holding a syringe filled with a powerful sedative. With incredible precision, she administered the sedative to Jacob, who started to weaken under its effects. The hospital security team quickly arrived to assist, ensuring that Jacob was securely restrained to prevent any further harm. The situation was under control, but the entire incident left me shaken. It became evident that Jacob's condition was more severe than we had initially thought. His mind was a labyrinth of darkness, and the hospital administration decided that he needed specialized treatment beyond what our facility could provide. They arranged to transfer him to a mental health institution with the expertise to cater to his complex needs. In the aftermath of this unsettling encounter, I couldn't help but reflect on the complexities of mental health and the importance of compassionate care. The incident also served as a stark reminder of the challenges nurses face while tending to patients with unique and unpredictable conditions. In the years that followed, I continued my work as a nurse, approaching each patient with empathy, understanding, and a profound appreciation for the intricacies of the human mind. Jacob's memory remained with me, a constant reminder that within the realm of mental health, there are enigmatic depths that require not only medical expertise but also kindness and patience. Each patient's journey was a tapestry of emotions and experiences, and I realized that my role as a nurse went beyond administering medications and treatment. It was about providing a safe space for healing, offering support to those navigating the labyrinth of their minds, and being a beacon of hope for those in need. My encounter with Jacob was a haunting lesson in the fragility of the human mind and the profound impact of compassionate care in the realm of mental health. Once upon a time, in a quaint little town nestled amidst rolling hills and lush meadows, I was a dedicated nurse, eager to make a positive difference in people's lives. At the age of 23, I found myself working night shifts at our local hospital, tending to the needs of patients who required care during the darkest hours. One fateful night, as the moon cast its silvery glow upon the world, I was assigned to room 307, a single bedroom where Mr. Jacobson, an elderly gentleman in his late 80s, lay with a terminal illness that had left him blind. Despite his frailty, he exuded a sense of wisdom and peace, a presence that immediately drew me in. During our initial interactions, I developed a friendly rapport with Mr. Jacobson. He possessed a poetic and profound nature, and conversations with him were always a unique experience. However, there was something peculiar about this particular night. As I approached his bedside, Mr. Jacobson turned his head in my direction, his clouded eyes locking onto mine. In a voice, raspy but oddly calming, he said, "I've been expecting you, my dear." A slight shiver ran down my spine, but I smiled warmly in response, replying, "Good evening, Mr. Jacobson. How are you feeling today?" To which he replied, "Feeling all, my dear, but a mere vessel drifting between realms. Time doesn't hold much meaning for me now." His cryptic words left me puzzled and unsure how to interpret their deeper meaning. Throughout my time nursing him, he had never spoken in such mysterious terms. Nevertheless, I brushed off my unease and continued to attend to his needs, trying to understand his unique perspective on life and time. Then, without warning, Mr. Jacobson spoke again, his voice tinged with sadness. "Like a butterfly, you will awaken in my own time very soon, my love." The words struck a chord within me, for they were the exact same phrase my late grandmother used to say to me when I was a child. Memories of my grandmother's gentle smile and loving presence washed over me, filling my heart with bittersweet emotions. Curiosity and concern overwhelmed me, and I couldn't help but inquire, "How do you know about that phrase, Mr. Jacobson?" "It's something that only my grandmother used to say." His tired eyes met mine, and a look of understanding crossed his face. "Some connections go beyond life," he replied softly. "We are all intertwined in ways we may never fully comprehend." In that vulnerable moment, we both shed tears, bonding over an unexplainable connection that seemed to transcend time and space. Although I couldn't grasp the reasons behind this uncanny familiarity, I found comfort in the shared experience of love and wisdom that Mr. Jacobson brought into my life. As time passed, I held on to this profound encounter, cherishing Mr. Jacobson's words and the memory of my grandmother's presence. They became a source of solace during moments of uncertainty and doubt, reminding me that love and wisdom had the power to bridge the gap between the living and the departed. With newfound strength and an open mind, I embraced the mysteries of life that unfolded before me like a beautiful butterfly emerging from its cocoon. Mr. Jacobson's words became a guiding light, leading me on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth. Though Mr. Jacobson eventually passed away, his impact on my life endured. I realized that sometimes the most meaningful connections are the ones that defy explanation. I continue my nursing journey with a heart filled with gratitude for the profound encounter with Mr. Jacobson, forever carrying his wisdom and love like a precious butterfly resting upon my soul.